There is a strange moment that almost every intelligent person experiences at some point in life. You enter a conversation knowing you have facts on your side. You have evidence. You have thought carefully about your position. You explain yourself calmly and logically, expecting the other person to at least consider what you are saying. But instead, something unexpected happens. They become even more certain. They ignore the evidence. They repeat the same argument. They become more emotional. And somehow, when the conversation ends, you are the one who feels exhausted. For a long time, you may believe the problem is your explanation. Maybe you need better words. Maybe you need stronger evidence. Maybe you need to explain the idea one more time. But the real problem is much deeper. You were trying to use logic against something that was never controlled by logic in the first place. If you enjoy uncovering the hidden psychology behind human behavior, subscribe to KOMIND. Every story reveals the ideas that shape how we think, decide, and act. More than 2 centuries ago, the philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer recognized a painful truth about human nature. People do not always argue because they want to discover what is true. Often, they argue because they want to protect what they already believe. And once you understand this, you stop wasting your energy trying to win battles that were never really about truth. Imagine a person who believes they are an excellent judge of character. They trust their instincts. They believe they understand people better than others. Then, one day, they are shown undeniable evidence that they were completely wrong about someone they trusted for years. The information itself is painful, but the deeper pain comes from what that mistake represents. If they were wrong about this person, could they also be wrong about themselves? That question attacks something much deeper than an opinion. It attacks their identity, and the human mind has a powerful defense system designed to protect identity. Psychologists call this cognitive dissonance. It is the uncomfortable feeling we experience when reality conflicts with the beliefs we hold about ourselves and the world. When this happens, we have 2 choices. We can change our beliefs and accept the new reality, or we can change the way we interpret reality to protect our existing beliefs. And surprisingly often, people choose the second option, because admitting you are wrong is not always just accepting new information. Sometimes, it feels like losing a part of yourself. This is why arguments become emotional so quickly. Most people believe they are defending ideas, but beneath the surface, they are often defending something much more personal. They are defending their identity. A political opinion, a personal belief, a career decision, or a life choice can become connected to the way someone sees themselves. So when someone challenges those beliefs, the brain does not always hear. Here is new information. It hears. Something important about you is being threatened. And when the ego feels attacked, the search for truth becomes secondary. The goal changes from understanding reality to protecting the self. Psychologist Kahneman explained this conflict through 2 systems of thinking. System 1 is fast, automatic, and emotional. It creates quick reactions and immediate judgments. System 2 is slower, more analytical, and requires conscious effort. It is the part of the mind that examines evidence and questions assumptions. The problem is, humans naturally prefer the first system. Certainty feels better than uncertainty. Confidence feels better than doubt. Simple answers feel better than complicated realities. This is why the person speaking with the most confidence is not always the person who understands the most. Sometimes confidence is not a sign of knowledge. Sometimes it is a sign that someone has never deeply examined their own assumptions. This connects to the famous Dunning-Kruger Effect, where researchers discovered that people with limited knowledge in a particular area often overestimate their abilities. This does not necessarily happen because they are dishonest. It happens because the skills required to recognize mistakes are often the same skills required to avoid making them. Meanwhile, people with genuine expertise often become more cautious. They understand complexity. They recognize exceptions. They know reality is rarely as simple as it first appears. The beginner says, "I know exactly how this works." The expert says, "There is still much more to understand." One mistakes certainty for wisdom. The other understands that wisdom requires humility. So what should you do when you encounter someone who refuses to listen? The first mistake is believing that every disagreement deserves a battle. It does not. Your attention is one of the most valuable resources you have. Every hour spent trying to convince someone who is committed to misunderstanding you is an hour taken away from your own growth and your own goals and your own peace. Schopenhauer understood this. He believed that some arguments are not competitions of intelligence. They are competitions of endurance. The person who cares less about truth can continue forever because they are not searching for an answer. They are defending a position. The strongest people throughout history understood the power of emotional detachment. They knew when to speak, and they knew when silence was the smarter choice. Silence is not always weakness. Sometimes silence is recognition. Recognition that your energy has value. Recognition that not every opinion deserves a response. Recognition that peace is sometimes more important than proving a point. The goal is not to become arrogant. The goal is to become disciplined. There is a difference between thinking, "I am better than everyone," and understanding, "I do not need everyone to understand me." The world will always contain people who misunderstand you, people who underestimate you, people who reject ideas because those ideas challenge their comfort. You cannot control that, but you can control your reaction. The immature mind asks, "How do I make them see?" The disciplined mind asks, "Why am I allowing their inability to see to disturb my peace?" That is the difference between intelligence and wisdom. Intelligence knows the answer. Wisdom knows when the answer is worth giving. In the end, the greatest victory is not defeating every person who disagrees with you. It is becoming someone who no longer needs to. Because the moment you stop seeking validation from people who refuse to understand, you become free. You stop fighting every storm. You stop chasing every argument. You stop handing strangers control over your emotions. And you finally understand the lesson Schopenhauer discovered long ago. The strongest mind is not the one that wins every argument. It is the one that knows which arguments are not worth entering.